And I guess of all the questions that I have for you is, how was it years ago that you ever got hooked up with the Chicago Cubs? What happened?
Well, I was a high school player. I got signed out of high school and played minor league ball for 3 years, went into service and came out and became a player manager at 23 at Ponca City, Oklahoma. And went on from there. I had ended up with three real good major league players later on, headed by Billy Williams, who of course is in the Hall of Fame, and Jim Brewer and Jack Curtis were left-handed pitchers that played for me. And I just moved around the organization wherever they needed me in 58. And then I went to spring training in 59 only because the big club had a couple of catchers that were in service. And after spring training, I went into Chicago as a scout in the Chicago area. And then in June, I accepted the position of traveling secretary with the Cubs, and later went on and handled the publicity. And I was with them through 59 through 65.
That means that you were with them in that position almost or concurrently with Jack Quinlan.
Yes, almost. 65 was my last year, and he had the accident in spring of 65, I believe it was.
What sort of guy was he?
He was a fun guy. He and Lou, he and Boudreaux, they got along great. He was a first class guy. He had a good word for everybody, and he'd give you the shirt off his back. And besides that, he was a hell of a good announcer. And I remember, I don't know who he replaced. It might have been Bert Wilson. I'm not sure, but I think he replaced Bert. And then came in and he worked with Boudreaux, and he worked with Charlie Grimm when they changed, when Boudreaux went to the uniform and Grimm came out of the uniform and went into the booth. And then, of course, when Charlie left, he spent a lot of time with Vince Lloyd.
In all the years and all the interviews I've done, I've never heard anybody with a negative word about Quinlan.
No, I don't think you ever will. I just, I don't know that there's many of us left that knew Jack, but everyone had a good word for him. He was a first-class guy, and like you say, it's a shame he isn't in the Hall. But one thing I think that hurt him, I believe he was only on 10 years, 15 or 20 years, he'd have been a shoo-in, because he was a baseball announcer. I mean, he wasn't a player that went into the booth, and he got along, and he sold tickets. Harry Carey sold tickets, and Jack sold tickets too, although Harry sold a heck of a lot more than Jack, because Harry, the club was winning when Harry was there, and when Jack was there, why, we had trouble putting two wins in a row together.
Well, Jack did his best, and he bled Cubby blue.
He sure did. And I believe I was in Chicago with Continental Airlines back in the early 80s and participated in one of his golf tournaments he had. I can't remember what year it was or what golf course it was, but I had an opportunity to participate in that, which was a nice, good feeling to see everybody, and it was great. It's just a shame he went the way he did, and spring training was always a little tough for the Cubs. I was there from 60 through 65, and we lost Kenny Hubbs one spring in an airplane crash after he was Rookie of the Year, and then 2 or 3 years later we lost Jack, and there were some good times. There were the old pros in the press with Ed Prell, Jim Enright, John Carmichael, Eddie Munzel, Jerry Holtzman. And it was just a bunch of real professional people. And of course, WGN, besides Jack, they had, the Brick House, and he was Jack, and always will be.
Do you have any question in your mind that if Jack Quinlan had perhaps been allowed to announce another year or two, do you have any doubt in your mind that he belongs in the Hall of Fame?
Oh no! I mean, I look around at the Hall of Fame, and you look around at some of the people that are in it, and you know, he deserves a shot. He isn't even getting a shot. That's what's he needs. He certainly deserves to be there. He deserves to be there, and talking about the Hall of Fame when it comes to the Cubs, why Charlie Grimm ought to be in the Hall of Fame also. I mean, Charlie spent his life as a player, a manager, I mean, a radio announcer. I mean, Charlie did it all, and he certainly should be there, and he's deserving of it.
I noticed that for years you were a catcher.
Yes.
Now, my question to you is, if guys like Kuno Berrigan and El Tappy could have made the big club, why didn't you?
Well, I couldn't hit enough. I could probably outcatch them or catch as well as they did, but I just had a little trouble hitting. I mean, I don't, I didn't strike out a lot, but I was just a ground ball hitter, hit off the front foot, but I know things happen. But it was a great experience. I mean, I've done just about everything with them, and with my time there, I participated in the Telstar satellite. When that went to Europe, I did the PA on the announcement that the ball game was being played at Chicago, and I had the honor of introducing the All-Star team. The game was there in Wrigley in '62, I think it was, and then, of course, in my high school days, why I caught a pitcher by the name of Billy Heft, who was quite a pitcher with Detroit, and he actually pitched a perfect game. He struck out 27 out of 27, and against a fairly good high school baseball team. He was probably the most outstanding player. Pitcher anyway at that time. That was back in '50, and most of the clubs were after him, but he was pretty well tied up with Detroit all along as it went along. And they offered me a position to go to spring training in '51. But I wanted to get out, and I didn't want to go to spring training cold. So I ended up with the Cubs, which was probably the best choice I could have made. And I did everything, and it just had a great time. It was just a shame we weren't winning. It was a shame. But I remember, I think Jack, when we talk about him, was when Don Cardwell came over and pitched we got him in a trade from Philadelphia. In his first outing, he pitched a no-hitter, and Walt Morin caught Joe Cunningham's line drive off the ground. He made a shoestring catch of that to save it, and I'll always remember that. And that gives an announcer some thrills. And Jack had him. He had him.
You, as traveling secretary. That's the job that involved getting them all packed up and helping them
making all the hotel arrangements, the bus back and forth from the airport, make all the airport arrangements, help out the equipment manager, make sure the truck was there to pick up the gear and take it out. Did a lot with spring training. I did a lot with scheduling with spring training schedule, and I did a few other things that more than normally a traveling secretary does. But we were thin, And that's why in, I think it was 1961, they made me PR director. And so I did both duties. I did all the stats and, on the old mimeograph machine. There was green stencils. I'm sure you remember those things. You'd go into a visiting town and be up half the night doing the stats for a day game the next day. And it was something. It was so different then. It's the whole game has changed. It's just different. I don't know what it is, but it made too many changes that were not for the best as far as I'm concerned. It's they made it next year. They're making more, so who knows? Who knows where it's going to go?
I wonder if you remember this. The Cubs were in Los Angeles. They traveled to LA. And I remember I was just a boy and I'm listening to Jack with Lou at Dodger Stadium. And Don, he said, well, Lou, we made it out to Los Angeles, but somewhere along the line, my suitcase got lost. So tonight I'm wearing Santo's shirt, I'm wearing Hub shorts, and I'm wearing Banks pants. Do you remember
He probably
that?
blamed it on to me too.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that, and I that was remember playing at the Coliseum. We opened Dodger Stadium out there when the first year they opened, and well, Candlestick opened the year before, I think it was, but yeah, that was quite a trade. Well, we got to play in the Coliseum when the Angels first came out. I think they played at Wrigley Field, the old Wrigley Field that AAA football played in. I guess the Giants have been in. Well, they started out in Seal Stadium, and then they went to Candlestick, and they're downtown. And
you remember an incident that made you infamous, so to speak, years ago when Sam Jones, the pitcher, who was with the
God,
Cubs,
here we go.
and I'm wondering right now if you'd care to elaborate. Here's the story that Sam Jones was with the Giants and having a good year in 1959, other than when he came to Wrigley Field.
Oh, you had to mention that.
And the Cubs were just pounding the hell out of him. And so one afternoon, a couple of the Giants look up at the scoreboard and they see an opening there where usually there's a number. And instead of that, there are feet sticking out.
No, just toes. Just toes, Ron. We didn't have the whole toe, just enough for them to see. And they never figured out how we did it, but they knew they were doing it.
How in the heck could the Cubs batters have seen your toe sticking out to the right or the left for a curveball?
It was just a couple inches above, and you could see it in the hall. And it was, that when you're talking about Sam Jones, and I remember I had a telescope that I used, which was, and at that time they rarely changed the signs. The second sign with men on base and things, and it was pretty easy. But I noticed we were playing the Giants, and in the corner of the dugout, why Bill Rigney's over there with Westrom and Sauer. And they were at a meeting, and all of a sudden, Sauer, I could follow him up out of the dugout up the ramp, and I hollered at our groundskeeper who's running the scoreboard. I said, Cotton, I think we're going to have a little company. Get ready, bar this thing up. And then about 5-10 minutes later, why, here comes Sauer walking along the bleachers wall. And he comes all the way out to the scoreboard, climbs up the ladder, starts pounding. He says, let me in. We never let him in. In fact, I put the telescope away and climbed up on the roof of the scoreboard.
Oh my gosh.
It was
So,
crazy, and it was funny. I While I was out there, you're always looking around. We were playing the Braves one time, and I caught Bob Buell and Joey J in our bleachers trying to steal our signs, and had to call Andy Frain's ushers to get them out of there. But uh, it was uh, it was something. You know, there were certain batters that really helped. Now Ernie never took them, and we never told Rogers Hornsby about it because we didn't know what he would do. But Fitz and Myatt, they were all right. But Bob Gibson threw a one hitter against us one time when I called about 80% of the signs, and that's what kind of a pitcher he was.
so
But it's
even though the batters knew,
yeah, a lot of times, they'd come up with different signs that I'd have to sit there with a pencil and paper or something and write down 3-2-1-2 curveball, 3-2-1 fastball. And figure, whoop, okay, it's the second sign they're using, or it's the third sign they're using. Back to work. And that was I was scouting that time. I was named. Well, no, I was just named road secretary, and they had me. Nobody knew me. I was none of the other clubs knew me. They wouldn't never recognize me. So it was perfect. But Al Dark set it all up. So Al was. We tried it in Philadelphia the first time with with a program and the bleachers, and we got into it. And most of the players knew about it, but there were a few that didn't. And guys, I remember Herb Nor call for a curveball, and he'd look crazy, then call the next one, and he'd slap it for a double or something. And the only time that Bobby Thompson, I got one underneath his chin by mistake, and I scared the heck out of me. But the next pitch, he hit a double off the wall, and so he had faith in me too. But that was one thing that always scared me. That these guys, there's no reason to have someone steal your signs, but I didn't. I was always afraid that I was calling a curveball and they were going to throw a fastball at the chin, and it always bothered me that I called it right, but they switched signs on me unbeknown to me, and so that was one thing you take, but it's electronically this Houston thing was something I think too many people knew about it, and that was the thing that got them in trouble.
So you were actually up in that scoreboard plenty of
Oh
times.
yes, I had my little chair, and there were two empty things to get some air in there. That's why they're open, and I sit back, and if you just on the right side or the left side with your foot. And we had different signs. This was a fastball. This was a curveball. This was something else. And if nothing was there, why, you're on your own, baby. But I never had a problem. When I first started, we were practicing out there one day, and that's when I had to half my foot out of the board. And we got it down where it was just a little, where it wasn't so noticeable, and it worked out good. And I don't know. There's a lot of clubs. I think they're all doing it. Hell, we've been trying to do it since 1876. We've been stealing signs one way or the other, and it's here to stay.
Well, Don, like you said about Sam Jones, you may have been, putting some signals out there, but the Cubs still finished in fifth.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We were 50-50, I think, that year. I think that was Sheffield's last year. And I think we ended up at 70, I don't know, 74 and 74, I think it was. I'm not sure. 77 and 77, I guess, amounts to 154.
Quickly, did you ever try to steal the signs from Spahn or Burdette?
No, No, I never did. Well, I was always in the press box then, so I couldn't do too much. But I used to catch batting practice with them on the road sometimes if I had my work done or the day games at home. But that's as far as away as I got. And I'm sure that I'm sure someone was stealing our signs or trying to. And I think that it's here to stay.
We've got short time here. Can I get you on again for a follow-up in the very near future?
Well, if I'm above ground, why, I'll be here.
You better be. I'm counting on it.
Well, anytime. I think we got it figured out. We'll do it the way we did today.
Hey, great meeting you, Don.